What's up, guys? I'm EJ Stewart, joined by Shamari and Kendall, and thank you for checking out this edition of our Hawkeye episode recap and review. Today, we're talking about episode 5, Ronin. This had some major reveals in it, including the reveal at the end that we'll get to probably in just a few moments. Guys, I just really excited to talk about this episode. We talked about on this podcast previously that there was word that episode 5 would be the episode that brought the heat. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I certainly feel on my end, this episode certainly was the gold standard for Hawkeye so far this series.
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. I don't really see how you can't. I mean, just in terms of the reveals, the character moments, I would probably say so. I'd say probably this and maybe the second episode. Also, okay. I thought the second episode was also really good. There you got a lot of arrow action. A pretty cool chase scene in the street as well, which I think still is kind of like a tentpole for the series so far. But yeah, this was definitely a very solid episode, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I thought this was a very good episode. Gave you a lot of, obviously a lot of big moments in just the MCU in general. So, it'll certainly, I think, go down. I mean, we'll see where the series finale ranks, but it'll certainly go down as the most memorable so far.
Yeah.
In terms of quality, I mean, I guess there's more nuanced conversations that we'll have probably, but yeah, I mean, I thought it was a very interesting episode. A lot happened. I thought it was exciting.
Yeah, and similar to when Kendall and I did our Young Justice episode, last episode, where we kind of jumped out of order because just the way the episode kind of ended up flowing. I think that this episode kind of requires us to kind of really talk about the end in the beginning and how it kind of frames everything else. So we saw last week how Yelena came over. She attacked Clint. We learned that she was hired to take Clint out. She verifies that and confirms that in this episode. Of course, if you watched the Black Widow movie in the post-credit scene, you see Val give her next target, and it's Clint Barton in that Ronin suit, and we got a lot of answers as to who it was that hired that hired Yelena. Of course, I think from some perspective you may think, okay, well, this is clearly Val hired her, but this seems like Val may end up being a middle person in all of this, and we see the true people behind the hired gun of trying to get Clint out by using Yelena was Eleanor Bishop. And when Yelena follows Eleanor to get more details about who she's been dealing with, we see Eleanor chilling with none other than Wilson Fisk himself, the Kingpin. Confirmed also by Clint Barton, who sees that picture and says, "This is the guy I was worried about, the Kingpin." So all the references we've had throughout this episode about the big guy and your boss and all the things we've heard for the last 3-4 weeks, that's all now confirmed that it is Vincent D'Onofrio's reprisal of the role as Wilson Fisk, a.k.a. Kingpin. Shamari, now that we have it official and you've seen the first look at Wilson Fisk, right now it's just a grainy picture on an iPhone, but we will eventually see more of him in the MCU. What are your initial thoughts?
It's about time. It's about time. It harkens back to seeing him in that white suit, seeing him put on that white suit in season 3 of Daredevil.
Right.
I mean, boy, it's all right. And just go watch Daredevil if you haven't watched Daredevil. But it's really good. You won't regret it. But yeah, boy, Kingpin. I feel like if he shows up, he's just gonna immediately bring the show to just a whole other octave. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not trying to speak any negativity into existence.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like what the great Jim Ross used to say in WWE. Now, of course, he's an announcer with AEW. When you see Wilson Fisk, business just picked up, and that's kind of how I felt. I'm pretty sure that's how you felt as soon as you see it. Especially the Vincent D'Onofrio character of that Wilson Fisk, given what we saw from him in the Netflix series of Hawkeye, of Super Daredevil. No disrespect to the late great Michael Clark Duncan, but this is a different this is a different beast we're talking about right now.
Yeah. This will. I think he's just gonna add some more teeth to the show. I'm just gonna be honest. Okay, he's gonna add so much more teeth to the villains, not these tracksuit, what are they, the bros, trust the bros or something, whatever.
Trust the bro moving company.
Yeah, trust the bro. Let's add a little bit of teeth to just everything that's going on. I mean, Echo's great, but that ain't enough to really make this show pop. To me, so far, Echo gives you a I'm forgetting her name from Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Flag Smasher.
The Flag Smasher girl.
Yeah.
Forgetting her.
I know
But she's right now kind of filling that role, to be completely honest. And Kingpin is like the power broker, and he needs to show up, and he needs to just raise the threat level to max. And Yelena is great. Yelena is great too, but it's very late in the show, so I don't really know. We know she wants to kill and everything, so that's kind of, it's almost in its own circle. So I need Kingpin to just show up, honestly, to start doing stuff.
And that person you're talking about, you're referring to, is Carly Morgenthau
there we go, Carly.
In the show Falcon and Winter Soldier. Kendall, it's what I think is going to be now the important question is this a true is this a true reprisal of the same Wilson Fisk that we knew from the Daredevil? I keep saying Hawkeye, the Daredevil series. Of course, I'm wearing the Daredevil shirt today, by the way. Is it the same? Is that the same Wilson Fisk? Everything that we learned from him, the whole backstory, the events that take place during those 3 seasons of Daredevil that include Wilson Fisk, all those things canon within the person that we are introduced to today, or is he playing Wilson Fisk from a different universe? Like, we kind of debated this a bit last week, but I think that we need to kind of have that conversation again, given whatever clues you may feel may lean one way or the other, given what you heard today.
I think it's largely too early to tell. Mm-hmm. It's like an election race. It's like too early to call.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I were to guess, I would say the odds are it's not the same character, but that it's just being portrayed by the same actor.
Right.
I mean, I feel like one thing, to harken back to what Shamari said about comparing this show to Falcon and Winter Soldier with the Carly Morgenthau character and the Power Broker with the Echo character and Kingpin, is I feel like with Falcon and Winter Soldier, they didn't like sell me a bit of goods, or they didn't sell me a bag of goods and not give me anything. But I do feel like there were some, we on this show we speculated, who's showing up, and it ended up just being Sharon Carter, who's a character we had already seen on the show, and it wasn't like the biggest reveal in the world. Obviously I even think to WandaVision. WandaVision had great moments, but it wasn't like there weren't like the inclusion of these characters that we didn't, we had.
I mean, in some ways, WandaVision did the anti-Hawkeye in that they brought a popular actor known to playing a certain Marvel character, but then didn't put him in that role. It's like they did, but then they didn't. It was a very weird thing they did, of course, with the Ralph Boner situation.
Right. But yeah, so this, I think, like you said, the closest comp is definitely Falcon and Winter Soldier, but in this regard, like, the Power Broker ended up being like a massive reveal. And, so this was, I would say, the first show. I mean, obviously we had the Kang reveal, which was obviously really great. Mm-hmm. But that show was like almost on its own planet, in terms of the stuff that was going on in Loki. Right. But from the for comparing it to Falcon and Winter Soldier, this show really delivered in that regard. But yeah, I mean, whether or not it's the same character, it means a new character. I mean, he's dealing with, Eleanor Bishop and just the tone of this Hawkeye series is so much more goofy, which is what we talked about last week when we talked about the LARPers inclusion, and whether or not the LARPers inclusion, fits, a quote unquote Hawkeye show. Well, that may not fit Clint Barton's show, but it fits Kate Bishop's show, and because the show is a little goofier, and so putting that Wilson Fisk in Kate Bishop's Hawkeye wouldn't make any sense, I don't think. Now, will it be a different Kingpin? I mean, I'm sure he'll still be great. I'm sure he'll still be similar, but I think there will be differences to the character that we'll still find ways to appreciate.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point.
What do you think, Sham?
I mean, I think D'Onofrio's gonna kill whatever role they give him, whatever they need him to do. I think he's gonna do it great. He's great as Kingpin. He looks like Kingpin. He can easily be Kingpin.
Yes.
I think he's gonna play Kingpin the same. I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't think
he's gonna act really much.
Although he had
a
very specific, demeanor, very specific portrayal that makes me wonder. Like the way he talked was kind of strange. The way he comported himself was very strange. So if he's doing those same mannerisms and those same, the same body language,
that's gonna
and all
confuse
that,
people because I'll be like, "Yo, is this the same guy?"
There's got to be the same guy.
And I found it interesting that today, of course, Vincent D'Onofrio got the credit at the end of the episode, and that beautiful Hawkeye logo with his silhouette.
Oh yeah.
And that Asia-like art is just again beautiful stuff. But it was interesting. He posted the credit to his Twitter account that showed, of course, Vincent D'Onofrio. And he said the caption was "When I was a boy," ellipses, and of course, that was of course the kind of the catchphrase almost, or like the kind of very much synonymous phrase when he would talk about his time as a child with that Daredevil character. I mean, it's interesting to me that he would use something so synonymous with the Daredevil character, and when there's these questions about is it the same character, he's certainly making that tie in the first official confirmation that we have of him being in the show. I think that is noteworthy. Doesn't mean that he won't turn around and this ends up being a different Kingpin or someone that's not the same Kingpin that we were introduced to in Daredevil. But the fact that he did make that tie, I thought was noteworthy. It's funny. I saw someone mention how there are little things here to make you think that maybe there's a chance that this is the same Wilson Fisk. Like, even if you think about the first episode and how that whole underground auction / gala that was going on upstairs. I mean, it's shot at the same New York building where Wilson Fisk was held up in witness protection in season 3 of Daredevil. Same gate. It's the same building. Again, is it just coincidence? Are they just playing along with the ties? I don't know. But considering this was a big event for Eleanor Bishop and she clearly knows who Wilson Fisk is, you start to again try to put 2 and 2 together, and you certainly end up with a lot of questions about perhaps maybe this will be them taking directly from that Daredevil character. The only thing is, it speaks to further questions we have about what the direction of the MCU is, because we've seen Marvel stay pretty steadfast in living in the PG-13 world only. Clearly, the Wilson Fisk character introduced in Daredevil, and Daredevil's whole series was a series much more geared towards mature audiences. It was written and portrayed for mature audiences in a mature way. If you're gonna bring that Fisk, if you're bringing that Fisk into this world, does it even work? I think that's an important question to ask. It's a question we've had with if you bring him into the Spider-Man world, does that work? And that's where the doubt lies in my head that this is the exact same Wilson Fisk. Again,
I also want.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I also think about the streaming wars from a more, now this is more corporate, this is more, this is more higher up than maybe even Kevin Feige, but would Disney as a company want to introduce characters that'll force people to watch source material that's on a major competitor like Netflix? Because they don't own those shows.
That's a great point.
So if you're telling me it's very clearly from that Daredevil show that's got 3 seasons on Netflix, Well, if I've never seen Daredevil and we're saying go watch Daredevil, it's not going to be on Disney Plus. So that, that's something that they're thinking about. Kevin Feige may not care, but as we've seen with Disney, sometimes they interfere.
And in some ways, they're doing it anyway. I mean, in some ways, like to anybody who didn't watch Daredevil, that scene, Kingpin is in the show. That's a big deal for anybody who knows anything about Marvel, even if you don't know, even if you didn't watch Daredevil. Yeah. But I think for a lot of people, they will have to say, okay, well, D'Onofrio's connection to this character is important because he's played him before. So it's gonna drag people there anyway. So So sometimes, in a way, it's like, does it even matter if it is the same person or it's not?
If you clearly establish that it's not the same, then I guess now you don't have the impetus for people to say, well, now I've got to watch. Now I've got to buy Netflix to go watch Daredevil, as opposed, if you're like a huge MCU fan, like as opposed to if you say it's completely new, then you may say, oh, well, I may want to watch it, like Constantine, on Legends of Tomorrow. I didn't then say I've got to go watch 2-3 seasons of Constantine.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're going to make it so they're not going to make it the story dependent on what happened in Daredevil.
Right.
I think there's 0%.
It may wind up being very ambiguous. Yeah. In terms of whether or not.
Yeah, it may be ambiguous, which may piss some people off, but I don't think they'll care. I wouldn't care personally, but they may make it ambiguous. I hope he acts the same.
I think he will.
I think he will. I hope he does, because it was so gripping.
Right.
And it's like why did you get him to change him?
Right.
Like what?
That goes into the Evan Peters thing, which is
exactly they don't. I don't think they want to do that again.
Now the Evan Peters Quicksilver was similar, but he was different in ways. Like I would say he was much more similar to the Fox version than he was to the Marvel version. But they did add their own nuances to his character, and it ended up being something completely different anyway. But I think that's a very interesting kind of what if, in terms of what are they going to do with this Kingpin character, and are they going to make him, are they going to make him goofy or different? Or are they going to have him play the same character?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
It all raises questions, and for this to come on the same week of Spider-Man No Way Home, where there's this expected arrival of Charlie Cox's Daredevil. We still don't know for sure. I mean, there may be spoilers there that saying that. I have not read them. I'm totally spoiler free when it comes to that movie. But it's you expect that Kevin's gonna have to kind of explain himself within the next few weeks to kind of say, okay, where do things stand now that we are being introduced to people that were playing other characters in a universe that you refuse to acknowledge. I mean, even to see the tweet today that someone was like, Wilson Fisk, Vincent D'Onofrio was the first character from a Netflix show to appear in anything in the MCU. And I was like, wow, like, it's crazy we came this far. I mean, when this whole idea of these Netflix shows were pitched, it was this idea that it's this connected universe. And once the execution came about, it seemed to then flip and say, well, we don't want to really touch those, and we can't for whatever reason. It seemed like a lot of nonsense to me and to a lot of fans. So the fact that we got to that point, and that is a major milestone for Marvel and for the fans in general, is really exciting. We got to talk about the rest of this episode, though, because there's plenty of other stuff to get to. And I don't want to be on this podcast for an hour and change here. But I do want to talk about the open, because to me it felt like kind of an epilogue to Black Widow. It was to me it was shot in the similar way. It followed you.
Well, I think there was the same. I think they shot it during Black Widow.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I think there's a possibility.
I think it's a possibility.
Yeah, it looked too much like Black Widow to me. She's wearing the same costume. I feel like if it wasn't, they would have kind of updated her in some ways. Kind of like the Hawkeye post-credit scene, or the Black Widow post-credit scene. That is Hawkeye. For Hawkeye, they knew what they were doing, but they shot with the movie.
Yeah, that may have been something that was cut. Right. Or something that they filmed maybe as a potential post-credit or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I absolutely think that's possible.
That's interesting. I don't know. I'm not sold that that's the case, but it's shot convincingly enough to look like Black Widow that I can't say for sure that you're definitely wrong. It's a great scene. To me, it probably rivals the Monica Rambeau blip scene as one of the best scenes, really, of the Disney Plus series so far.
The blip scenes in general,
They're all great.
Give me more. I know
Yeah.
some people are like, I'm done with the blip. The blip was 8 years ago, but to me, they're all. It's
I
too.
mean,
It's too relevant.
Yeah,
important. Yeah,
It's
so.
too important to ignore. I mean, I talked about that with this series earlier, where we really didn't know. Now, look, I mean, Kate Bishop is like, that's not a character where we need to know where was she in theory, but like, it just when we introduce these characters, some of them we just ignore what happened during the blip, which is, I guess, fine, but there are a lot of people that have questions.
Yeah.
How does this connect to your character? And when you show it, now you get these great stories, these great moments.
Yeah.
I mean, we've never seen the blip, from that perspective of you just like disappear and then you're in the same spot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. To me, I really liked how, one, I think the decision to blip Yelena is 100% the right thing to do, because it adds to the trauma of her realizing Natasha is gone. Because think about this, like, if she had lived all those 5 years and it's terrible and whatever, but she knows that the Avengers are trying to save the Earth, or they eventually retry. Like, I think the fact that Natasha dies in battle or dies trying to save the world, the universe maybe even, probably lives a little. She probably can live with it a little better. It's a lot different to be, okay, Natasha's on the run as she normally is, but whatever. You hope things will turn around, and all of a sudden you're gone and you're back. But for you, that's like 5 seconds, and you come back, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my god, well, I gotta find my sister, and then you realize she's gone. Like, that's like much more of a. It wasn't 5. I mean, Natasha had 5 years of keeping the Avengers afloat, doing all the work on the side, and then of course, going to Vormir and risking her life, or sacrificing her life rather. She had all of that. There was a lot of time that went by there for someone so close to her to have her just be gone in literally a snap. This has got to be, it paints a different trauma to what Yelena is dealing with, and it makes that conversation she has with Kate so great. And you want to talk about great scenes also in the MCU Disney Plus series. I think that the conversation between her and Kate also probably one of the better scenes in the MCU series. I think if you were asking why Florence Pugh, they see her so highly in the MCU and at the Marvel Studios, I think that scene points to it right there. The ability to be comedic and then also be cold-blooded and ruthless in the same, sometimes in the matter of the same sentence. And that's an acting range that I think was really on display in both of those scenes. I thought Florence Pugh was really the MVP of this episode in many ways.
I mean, I'd agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. She's fantastic as Yelena. I mean, there really isn't. I don't have anything negative to say about her performances. She's great. She's funny. She's, skilled in terms of like fighting. A lot of great fight scenes. So, yeah. I mean, I thought that scene with her and Kate was great as well. To me, I still think Haley Steinfeld's still kind of killing the show.
Oh, she was great in that scene too. When they were together.
Yeah, she's killing it as Kate Bishop. She's really kind of carrying the show on her shoulders, and so yeah. I mean, I thought it was great.
And one of the things, Kendall, I loved about that scene between Kate and Yelena, and I've been calling for it for weeks, and you guys know it. Finally, somebody says
somebody's been listening to this.
Yeah, clearly Yelena's been watching the Hawkeye series before she went on her mission. She's like, you know what? These guys make a pretty good. This guy EJ's making a pretty good point, because she's like, when is anybody gonna hold this guy accountable for the things he's done as Ronin? And of course, she has the warped sense in the back of her head too that he's responsible for Natasha dying, which isn't really true. It's interesting that that's the story being fed to her, but still, even beyond that, she goes back to, you guys are protecting him because he's this hero. He ain't really a hero. And it's a harsh way to look at it, but again, given how Clint carries this weight of what he did during these 5 years, and we know the body trail that he left, the one thing I felt the show was missing was any critical analysis of that. His wife gives him a pass. Gives him a pass again in this episode. Kate continues to give him a pass. Somebody needs to say, yo, man, this dude is not a good dude. And it was great to see Yelena really pushing back against someone who had been so steadfast in support of him and Kate, and seeing that mesh. I kind of feel like I don't think we needed to wait 5 episodes for that, but I'm just glad it happened. And considering again how great Florence has been, I'm glad that this was the person. Again, did it have to be 5 episodes in? I don't think so, but it'd be the first time. But she ended up being a great messenger because I thought that scene had a lot of intensity, a lot of emotional intensity that was brought out because of Florence's portrayal and her performance there.
Yeah, I mean it presents a moral question, like you said. I mean, I feel like it makes sense for her character and for Echo's character to be the most like screw Ronin, because they were affected by
all my homies hate Ronin.
Exactly, 100%, and because of that, you they're going to be the most the most unforgivable when it comes to what he's done as Ronin and not care what he's done as Hawkeye, basically. The general public sees him as Hawkeye, so a lot of those people will not care. I think
they're giving him free meals and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. I think that they probably should do a better job of making it clear who actually knows what happened between Hawkeye and Yelena. Hawkeye and Natasha and Vormir, and like
I was wondering
what's the story.
I was wondering that,
and what was the story that was told?
Yeah,
how does Val know what happened?
Yeah, I was very confused. I was wondering why Yelena, because she sounded so sure,
right,
that it was Clint's fault.
Right.
I'm like, but how does anybody?
I mean, she knows from Val.
Like she didn't even know, or like she didn't really broach how he died. So I'm like, obviously there's no camera, so it's like you didn't see what happened. Mm-hmm. Do you know a story? Because no story's even been. We don't know what the story is.
I mean, I'm just going based on she knows they both went to get a stone, and Clint's the only one that.
Well, there's important thing too, Smart, to remember that Val, and I have to play that scene again, but Val tells her, you want to know the person that killed your sister or something like that. I think those are the exact words. So she, again, we don't know what the word is to the public about what happened. We all know Natasha died, but that does she even get the credit?
Even beyond the public,
yeah.
Like what does Val?
Yeah,
like how does what does Val know? And like, does she know like beat for beat what happened, or did she just know that they went to another planet? Right. Like that, all those things are so vague.
Like we don't know how much has been made available to anybody.
Yeah,
it's also weird. The fact that they all know, like they all know in public that Natasha died. Like I guess that must have been
they probably said she sacrificed her life and helped save the world. It's probably something vague, but we don't even know how vague that is. We are very in the dark on that. That is something.
Because like even Kate kind of knows what she's talking about. Like, so that's why I'm kind of confused. Whereas like Kate, we don't know.
And,
but like,
and every time that Kate,
and
every time Kate talks about Hawkeye, when she references, well, look, he saved the world, like that. She's not just talking about New York. I always assume she's also talking about bringing everybody back too. And there's clear references that she's bringing back, and that's why when they were going back and forth, Yelena's like, no, my sister saved the world. Let's keep this 100. Let's say what really happened here. So again, I do agree there needs to be some reckoning of what does the public know, what does Val know, and what did she tell Yelena? And we have an episode where we may get more details as to what was exactly told to Yelena. But the thought that, because does the public know that Hawkeye went with Natasha and then they both didn't come back? We don't know any of those answers. Like a lot of that stuff is still very vague, and I do agree. I would even calculate it as perhaps a misstep from a storytelling standpoint from Marvel, that we are so in the dark on this, because it's like people have stories, but nobody really is saying what's the story that the Avengers told the public as to what happened.
The interesting thing that I took from that scene is that clearly Yelena is disillusioned by the whole Avengers concept and just the whole idea of being a hero.
Well, she was that goes back to Black Widow. Yeah, exactly.
And so because of that, and like you said, that's consistent with the character. I thought it was interesting, that she mentions particularly that name, means nothing. I think in part also because of what happened with Hawkeye, and why she's like, I'm going after this guy. She doesn't care if he's a quote unquote Avenger.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting because, we continue to speculate. Will she be a Thunderbolt? Will she be a Dark Avenger? The name obviously Dark Avengers is one that is very possible. And if that's the case, that may be some foreshadowing.
Yeah, and again, our full context of what Val's role is in all this, we still don't know, but she definitely seems very anti-Avenger. So her kind of bringing Yelena in the fold would make sense from that regard. And Yelena perhaps being willing to listen and ingest kind of what Val is feeding her would make a lot of sense as well. I want to bring up Maya's character development here because Clint, realizing that this is kind of not going well, he tells his wife, "Look, this ain't going well. This Maya woman's relentless. She knows like who you are and our kids, and I'm worried that Fisk's gonna get involved, and this is just gonna have to end very soon, or it's gonna be very bad." So it leads him to basically kind of give this ultimatum, not an ultimatum, but kind of like an invitation to a showdown with Maya is probably a better way to put it. Through a arrow to the tracksuits Truster Bro moving company truck. By the way, I love their conversation about iconic tracksuits in pop culture. I think they missed The Rock as an iconic tracksuit. The Rock wrestling in the '90s, he wrestled a lot in tracksuits, and I think that like some basketball teams, like to me, like the Kendall enjoyed the 1980s Boston Celtics, like them running out of the tunnel of the Boston Garden. I think they're also iconic tracksuits. So there's I saw someone tweet that Watch Mojo. Shout out to Watch Mojo. They should do like a top 10 now top tracksuits. I totally agree that Tony Soprano and Run DMC and that they would be equivalent to iconic tracksuits. So it leads Clint to go to this kind of Avengers memorial or kind of a plaque, kind of just I guess thanking them for saving New York City. And Clint ends up having this conversation, kind of a spiritual conversation he's trying to have with Natasha at this point where I assume the Avengers first assembled in New York City and, of course, beat the Chitauri. And he says, "Look, I miss you, and I think about, your death every single day. It plays in my head a million times of how things could have been different. And that I miss you, and that I'm sorry, but I'm about to do something you're probably not going to like." And that, to me, was a clear acknowledgement that he was going to put the Ronin suit back on, something that Natasha was able to get him out of in Avengers Endgame when she went to see him to recruit him to this mission to bring everybody back who had been snapped away from existence by Thanos. So he eventually ends up tracking down the tracksuits. He gives them a message to meet for Maya to meet him in the place that she first encountered him, which was that Fat Man Auto Shop, which of course we now know owned by Wilson Fisk. And we see Ronin go into his full kind of Batman Arkham series mode here. Maya is supposed to come alone, but of course she brings all of her goons, including Kazi, the person that he's also been working with to try to end this feud during this whole time. And he easily takes all of these guys out before a one-on-one battle ensues with him and Maya. They have a pretty intense fight. Maya once again shows herself to be a formidable opponent, but eventually he gets the upper hand. And in this moment where you're expecting, okay, is this where he actually ends up killing somebody? Like, is this why he's putting the Ronin suit on? He actually decides to unmask and show himself as Clint Barton, as Ronin, confirming to her that he is Ronin and that he is not here to kill her or anything like that, but that if she continues or anyone continues on the path towards trying to threaten his family, that will be the last thing they do, that she says. So it was an interesting conversation they had. It wasn't really a conversation. It was more of him kind of just explaining things to her. He talked about how they're the same, that they're weapons that can be manipulated and used if they are kind of seething with rage. I think that's him kind of talking about his time as Ronin and her and this kind of bloodlust she has for Ronin and working for Wilson Fisk. And then he reveals something very important, that he was tipped off about the location of her father and all of his goons by an informant who works for Wilson Fisk, and that Wilson Fisk actually wanted her father dead. All those things to me seemed like a likely scenario. Like everything came together, kind of in a way that made sense. And I think will push Maya towards a heroic path that will end up making a lot of sense. That she was disillusioned in this world, and this whole kind of purpose she's been living with for moving forward is carrying her father's legacy, and that carrying that legacy is actually in some ways kind of supporting the same people who actually ended up being the people responsible for his death. Not necessarily putting it on Ronin, but putting it on Fisk. And now we know someone in her circle that very much looks like it's Kazi, who's been, of course, her closest confidant in this whole time.
Yeah. I mean, when she confronts him with it, why weren't you there that night? He kind of gives the
see, he gave her the see what had happened was.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Who cares? Why does it matter? Why are you asking? What?
It's like you don't remember.
It's funny how in these TV shows, how like informants, like if you're an informant, you got to be really good at your job. And like in TV shows and movies, it's like too many times we see them like not be good, and it's like this person would be made easily. How is Kazi the first time he's approached with this? This is.
And the dumbest answer was, I guess I didn't get the invite.
I didn't get the invite.
They did the email.
Yeah, clearly it wasn't in the right email. Nobody sent me the text.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I think Alakwa Cox has done an excellent job playing the Echo character. Again, her facial expressions and her body language has done an excellent job of kind of telling the character beyond the subtitle.
For sure.
And sign language. But yeah, I mean, they're telling a different story, obviously, than the comics. That was actually Ronin. It wasn't like he was framed.
Right.
He did actually take out her father, but...
Which I like, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't a straight one-for-one copy of the Daredevil story, but, it still leads back to Kingpin versus Echo. And so that's interesting. We'll see that play itself out on her series. I don't think they've done a good job of making Echo's character important enough.
I agree.
To, necessarily, make me, I need
a show.
An Echo show. I mean, the only reason right now, and not to say it again, Alakwa Cox, I think, has done an excellent job, but not to say that I am excited for her show, but it's more so because we've heard that there's going to be more Kingpin and there's going to be Daredevil. And so if that's the case, then I'm like, well, and look, that's a good job. If you want to get me excited about Echo, it's just, if I want to be excited about Echo because I'm excited about the character Echo. And she's done a good job, but I'm like, if I didn't know that Kingpin and Daredevil were in it, I would be like, really? You give me an Echo show?
Yeah. So I'm excited about Echo. I'm excited about Echo. I think Echo is one of my favorite characters in the show. Wow. Yeah, definitely. It's like bar none. Yeah, just partially because, and again, you guys, I'm an action guy. Her action has been some of the best action in this show.
That's true.
So, and she's got a prosthetic leg, so maybe we can get some Winter Soldier-esque and Winter Soldier-ish,
right?
Kind of prosthetic action. Though it doesn't seem to be augmented like that. Though I don't know. I don't think we've seen it raw at this age.
Right.
So who knows? There's got some weapons in there, so who knows? So yeah, I like Echo. I'm looking forward to seeing more of her. I agree that informant is kind of bumbling, kind of which we saw that earlier.
Kazi, yeah.
Clint had a conversation with him. Yeah, Kazi. Yeah, so this is.
I did like how that conversation I think, but sorry to cut you off, Shan, but I liked how everything with Kazi all made sense when we got to the end of this episode. I felt like in terms of making a payoff make sense. I thought that our work, rather, I think that this was one of the better examples because Kazi's whole deal from the beginning of Clinton knew who he was almost immediately, by name. I was like, okay, that's a little weird, but whatever. And okay, he seems to be kind of high up, but Clint seems to be very interested in what he's doing, and he's able to easily break into his car and talk to him in a way in which they have a pretty. I know he was trying to pull out weapons, but it was a very kind of they talked as if they had spoken before, and you don't know why anything's happening other than, hey, this guy is just a 2-bit thug that maybe he's just crossed paths with multiple times as Ronin. But now it's hearing that, okay, he was actually my informant, that makes way more sense and kind of makes those other interactions and those other
explains why he knows Kingpin.
And why he knows Kingpin, and some of the mentions that we've heard from Clint earlier about Kazi, why that all came together so well in this episode.
Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that as well. It really did just fit right into place, and Kazi is. I think the actor's doing a good job too of portraying the character. And I think this finale is gonna have a lot. It's gonna have a lot of work.
Yeah, in some ways, while I didn't necessarily, I think this story moved. I think this story moved along greatly today. In some ways, I feel like because it's moved along slowly in the previous episodes, they do come to a little bit of a tough spot in this last episode. They have a lot to tie in, a lot to kind of bring together. You drop in a major bomb, like dropping in Wilson Fisk with only one episode to play with. How much is he involved? Wrapping up this.
I don't think everything's gonna tie in as nicely.
I don't think it will. I don't think it's possible.
Wrap up, I should say, as nicely.
Yeah. I don't think it will.
I think that we know that the Kingpin character. I mean, first of all, he's not the big bad. I don't think. But I think he's in it. But I think it's more so in part to set him up for Echo.
Right.
And he will be the big bad of that series, I assume. Do we get in-person interactions with him? I would assume so. But I think we're establishing that the big bad is Eleanor Bishop,
right?
Which is still kind of like that is Kate Bishop. Because again, if we keep going back to this is a Kate Bishop show, then her main foil now is Eleanor Bishop. It seems like the Jack Duquesne character was a total red herring. And they did a great job of making him seem super normal and super nice. And it's like. And it seems like it was, this guy obviously evil.
Well, we know he's evil to a certain degree because he is arrested.
He's bankrolling the tracksuits.
Yeah,
he claims he was framed.
He may be involved in some way. So you believe?
Well, I think he might have been framed.
Wow,
you guys think that he was? You guys think he was doing that?
Yeah, I think he was, but
he was all in the underground, whatever thing, buying all the underground, whatever.
Well, that's one thing. Buying the sword, we know he
and tech and stuff.
Yeah,
this guy's.
So, but that's interesting.
All he did was buy the Ronin.
So Kendall, you're in the camp that this is still a red herring. I mean, clearly it's still a red herring. Me and Shamar is still in it, hook, line, and sinker. But
you guys are still taking the bait.
I'm thinking they're both involved in different ways.
Yeah, so
I'm thinking
he doesn't know. I don't think he knows that she's in the stuff. Because I feel like he would have said. I was like, what?
Though I guess it does make sense because you would think that he is involved because if he's bankrolling the tracksuits and Kingpin is running the tracksuits, he should know about all of this because the tracksuits are working with Maya.
But also he should also there is the thing. Okay, well, who killed this other guy, the other Duquesne?
Oh, well, we know that she got into the argument with him, Eleanor Bishop.
Right, so it may not have. Right.
Now, did she stab him? I mean, I don't know.
Because she hired somebody to stab him?
Did she hire somebody? We know she's hiring people.
Yeah.
Did she hire somebody to kill him?
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot that they gotta.
I do like Kendall's, where he's going with this idea that maybe Kate, brings these concerns about Jack to Eleanor, and Eleanor thinking, all right, this is another problem I got to deal with. As we've seen, she is totally fine with getting rid of problems that threaten her daughter in any way. And she could have seen Jack as a problem. Say, all right, well, I like this guy, but clearly, if this is something that's alarmed her enough, let's get him out of here. So
I think we're gonna get the full on
evil speech.
Mariah Dillard, just complete go from normal to
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't. I mean, and perhaps maybe she's actually the one that's.
Scooby-Doo.
And perhaps maybe she's the one that's actually bankrolling Sloan Enterprises, and she did it. Maybe she did it in Jackson. She could have done it in Jack's name just for the sake of keeping her name clean. And she didn't.
That's why he's saying I was framed. He may not even realize it was her. But he's like, I didn't do this. Somebody put my name on this.
He's just so weird that I just
Well, that's the thing. That's
right.
so
I know.
great.
It's funny. It's like light bulbs clicking. It's like,
Yeah,
man, Kendall might have a good point. He's
baby
just
stuff.
he's just so weird that I was just like, okay, finally we
Right.
got this clown out of here. We know he's crooked.
He's got the black. Like you said, he's at the black market auction. And he's buying the
Right.
Ronin sword. You're thinking this guy's got, and in the comics he's swordsman.
Right.
So you're like, he's got to be evil. But then I think that was like, it's not officially confirmed, but I think now we're sort of leaning that direction.
Yeah, and who's to say he won't become evil or be evil eventually?
Right.
He could be swordsman maybe in the future, but is he still today? Does he have anything to do with this Fisk business? I mean, I watched this episode and think, okay, finally we got him out of here. But Kendall may have a good point. Maybe that this is some kind of red herring that it makes sense. There's definitely plenty of reasons to think that this could go a different way. I think we got into pretty much everything in this episode, so I think this is probably a good time to.
Any final prediction
for episode 6? I think I like what you said about. I don't think this is going to be the neatest finale. I think that it's kind of impossible. There's too many moving parts. There's too much stuff to kind of reintroduce, clear up. That I don't think that we'll get everything figured out. But I think that's kind of why the Echo show exists. I think the Echo show will likely kind of end up being.
We'll handle all of that.
Yeah, it'll be a follow up. Like I don't think I'll be honest. I don't know if we're gonna see a lot of Wilson Fisk next week. Like I'm not convinced of that. I'm not.
I agree.
And I think a lot of this stuff with Echo and everything, I don't know if that's going to be just, again, the neatest bow that's cleared out. I think that, this episode went a long way to kind of letting us understand where her story will go, and she's going to have a whole 6-episode series to explore that. They may say some of that for the sake of, really completing Kate's story, which is this issue with Eleanor Bishop, with kind of Kingpin in the background. And it's Yelena's story. I mean, Yelena is such a big force now in this show. She has to have kind of a final showdown with Clint where they have to have some kind of situation. And Clint didn't seem so alarmed when he was told that Yelena was a person that was chasing him. I think he feels, all right, that's Natasha. I know who that is.
Yeah, I can handle that.
I can handle that. I think he was more concerned, it being just some random assassin.
Right.
So there, because there are these other things, there's some stuff in here that won't, I don't think, be the neatest. And it may be a problem. I'll be honest.
I think we're gonna get to a point where we've got. I think Fisk is gonna be in it for a while.
Okay.
Like he's not in the whole episode, but I don't think it'll be like he's in like 2 scenes, he's in the post credit scene kind of thing, and that's it. I think they're gonna show like Eleanor Bishop and Fisk's interactions, and I think we may get to a point where like they're going after, they're going after her, and kind of closing in on her and Fisk. And we've got Yelena in the picture now going after Barton, but then we've also got Echo now who's going to be going after Fisk.
Right.
And she may wind up being like the game changer that puts them over the edge. Fisk nothing's going to happen to him. But in terms of maybe stopping Bishop,
right.
She may be the game changer that evens the odds a little bit. But
I can see that.
It'll be an interesting. It'll be an interesting finale, but yeah, I expect we get deep ties, obviously, and deep lead up into Echo, and we also got to get Clint back home.
Right, which we know he's definitely getting back home, which we know is going to happen.
How close are we to Christmas now? I would assume we're going to get to Christmas in this last.
Yeah, I was a little confused because I saw Laura was putting presents under the tree, so I was like, "It's Christmas tomorrow?" I couldn't really tell. I feel like if the next day isn't Christmas, then the next day I think might be like Christmas Eve. I think we're like really close. So
right, should be, because isn't next episode's a few days before Christmas anyway, so it would make sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm expecting. I kind of feel probably closer to EJ. I don't know if we're gonna get that much Wilson Fisk. We may get a little bit of Wilson Fisk. But I'm expecting, because they got a lot to do. A lot of rope to tie, a lot of loose ends to tighten up. So yeah. So I'm expecting a lot. This has not been my favorite Disney series, Disney Marvel series. It hasn't been bad, but definitely not my favorite so far. But but they got a lot to do with this finale.
All right. Well, let's get to the scores for the penultimate episode 5 here, Ronin. I'll let Kendall go first. What's your score for this episode?
For this episode, I'll go 8. I thought it was a very good episode. Obviously we got some reveals that we really wanted to see. We got some, clarity on the Yelena Belova character, and honestly, maybe some stuff that we like you said, an epilogue a little bit to Black Widow probably could have, made that movie a little bit more interesting. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was a very good episode, and I think this should be an exciting finale.
What about you, Shane?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think it was. I would probably give it an 8 as well. I thought it was a solid episode. A couple pretty cool action sequences. A lot of very interesting dialogue, and of course, he had the major reveals as well towards the end of the episode. And Yelena brought the episode to another level as well. So that probably brought it up to an 8.
Yeah, I'm gonna go 9. I love this episode. I think that this was by far the best episode. I think it was truly a top-notch performance by many of the actors in this series. Florence Pugh, Haley Steinfeld, both were pretty exceptional. I even loved Haley's phone calls to Clint. How her trying to get back into the game, and how difficult the times she was having just reaching him. And her acting in each of those calls, how they got progressively more obsessive and like more crazy. What was that?
I was gonna say I thought it would have been funny if she would have called him Clint Barton, like the way Yelena was calling her Kate Bishop after that conversation.
Yeah, I know, right? So yeah, I just thought that there was a lot of great performances. I think it hit on almost every this episode needed to do a lot, and I felt like it did a lot. Like we need to get Maya on the path away from Kingpin, or at least curiosity as to where her place is in this kind of underground criminal world that she's currently habitating in. We need to get Yelena's kind of thought process, her why she's doing any of this, and kind of something I didn't even know I needed, but just what has happened to her over the last 5 years. And they did it in a very neat way. I think that her conversation with Anna, in terms of the fact that Anna says, "Oh, I've been doing contract work, to kill people. That's why I've all this money." It makes me wonder if that's how she got introduced to Val. So there was a lot with Yelena that was very important that I didn't even think I would need, and they gave it to me. And then the Wilson Fisk thing at the end was just perfect. And combining it with Eleanor Bishop, who we expected to be a villainous character, and really truly putting her in that villainous place when you put her next to someone as vile as Wilson Fisk. So it just tied everything together really well for the stuff we needed to do. And again, do they have enough time to really wrap it all up in a bow? I don't know, but this episode did as much as it could within reason, I thought. So I gave this a 9. This was a stellar episode.
This might be the first time we got the major reveal of a character through a grainy text message picture. Was not expecting.
Yeah, man.
I don't know where that.
I don't know if that's a burner phone that Clinton got Kate, but she needs to upgrade, man. I don't know what her T-Mobile deal is, or if she needs to go to AT&T or Verizon or something. But man, that photo, or maybe it's Yelena. It could be Yelena's phone actually. Maybe it was whatever. She was the one with the picture, so maybe it was just a picture
from far.
Yeah, I don't know. It just that phone was not it.
Not how I expected to see Kingpin.
No, not at all. And I honestly like that. I like that was the reveal, because it was yeah.
And also it shows you that Kingpin is a hard guy to nail down. You're not just gonna see this guy.
He's not gonna be just walking down the street.
A Black Widow assassin to even be able to get a grainy look at him.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. But that's gonna do it for this edition of our Hawkeye episode recap and review, episode 5. We have just one more episode to go. Next week, that'll be our final episode. So make sure you guys are here with us on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we drop the episode recap to check us out. Of course, if you like this video, make sure you give us a like and leave a comment in the comment section on what you thought about this episode, what you thought about the reveals, what are you expecting for next week. And of course, if you enjoy our content, make sure you subscribe to the channel New Generation Media. That'll do it for now. Thank you all for checking us out. For Kendall, for Shamari, I'm EJ. Take it easy, guys. Peace.